political analysis is wrong. I don't think it's unpopular at all to try to reform an entitlement program to save it for the people who need it, to keep illegal aliens from getting welfare benefits they shouldn't be getting, to encourage people to go to work. I don't think these things should be shied away from by Republicans.
None of that is true. First of all, I think Medicaid
It's exactly true. It's exactly what's in the bill.
Federal law prohibits undocumented immigrants
then why are
from receiving Medicaid benefits.
On it? Why are
That's a figment of your imagination.
It's a figment of the CBO's documents.
Let me explain the facts.
It's in the CBO documents.
I'll explain the facts.
Is it or not?
Let me explain. It's not, actually.
No, you are lying.
No, that is not. It is not true.
Okay, hang on a
You're
second.
inventing facts out of thin air.
All right.
So Medicaid is.
Hold on, guys.
State program.
Medicaid is the most popular program after Social Security and Medicare. So $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, which is what Republicans just did, is not only bad morals and bad economics, it's bad politics. Medicaid is actually more popular than you, Scott Jennings. It has 70% approval rating among Republicans.
How do you know what my approval
More than
rating is?
80% among independents, more than 90% among Democrats. It's political suicide for Republicans to get Medicaid.
I think it's political suicide to come on as a member of Congress and lie about what the CBO says.
So the majority of people who benefit from Medicaid are senior citizens and those with disabilities. Almost all Medicaid funding goes toward the elderly, the disabled, children, and working adults.
That's who it's for.
And it's not for illegals. And those are the people for whom it principally benefits.
Scott, just to disentangle this here, the federal law prohibits undocumented people from getting Medicaid. That is the law.
But they're on it.
Okay, not the federally funded part of Medicaid. States have their own funding mechanisms, and some of them have chosen to expand it to include everyone. There's a difference here. Now, you don't like to acknowledge the difference, but that difference does exist.
No. Oh boy, as you saw from the intro, Scott Jennings is not taking any prisoners on this one. And I know that Abby Phillips, he did that little counterpoint at the end saying that, states manage their own Medicare and that's where illegals are actually on. But on a federal level, they're not on that. And I'm going to tell you that is kind of a misleading statement she made, because Trump did something at the end where he said that the federal government will no longer pay Medicare reimbursement if you have illegals on your system and whatnot. And California changed their law where they're going to drop illegals out of their Medicare. So this framing from Abby Phillips talking about how, it's state run, but the state gets refunded the money with the federal government. If the federal government is not paying for it, California don't want illegals on the Medicare program, from the state-funded Medicare program. Make sense. And this is the game that they play, right? And Scott Jennings is calling down the middle like, the federal government is funding this stuff or is subsidizing a lot of this Medicare stuff. And Trump said, no, we're not going to do it for states or for sanctuary cities or states that have illegals as part of their state-funded Medicare. And then California changed its tune. So what you're telling me is California is only willing to allow illegals on their state-run Medicare program as long as the federal government reimburses them for it. And when the government stops doing that, they want to kick the illegals off their Medicare program. This is California, by the way. You can look this up. You can research this. So this claim from Abby Phillips to me was misleading. This is why my bias come out again. I think liberals liberals are actively trying to trick me into supporting their positions when everything that Republicans are doing is about reform. They're not trying to remove Medicare. So when they threw all this popularity, it's popular amongst people of all political persuasions and all this stuff, Republicans are making an efficiency argument. And I think this is why they have a good chance of winning the midterms. Just in a new census that counts only U.S. citizens could shift the country to the right by eliminating 25 to 30 liberal congressional districts. And this is the prime opportunity for the Republican Party. But I want to put up more of this conversation surrounding the cutting Medicare, because there's this framing from the left to try to box Republicans as the people that taking away health care. And I think these counter and debating points that Scott Jennings is putting up, I think is very persuasive and actually makes a strong argument for efficiency. I digress. Let's check it out.
You say Republicans should lean in, but most of these Medicaid cuts don't come until after the midterms. Why is that?
Well, I mean, states run the Medicaid program. I do think it's reasonable to give them time to prepare to enact changes to the program. But it doesn't matter because Democrats are obviously going to go all in on this hysteria campaign. So if you're running a Republican campaign out there, you're going to have to debate the issue. And I'm telling you as a debating point, if Democrats want to run on giving Medicaid to illegal aliens and people who won't work or choose not to work, Republicans have a counter message that will work if they are willing to courageously defend it.
I was going to say, I mean, you're putting your Republican colleagues of mine in the position of having to declare people to be deadbeats at the time when they are working 2 jobs. They are doing everything they can to make ends meet. And you guys are going to take the rug out from under them. And they're not going to be happy. They're going to be rightly, I think, upset about it.
You guys are conflating two populations, and it's not my conjecture. Just ask the CBO. Everybody likes to cite the CBO. The CBO's
Except
own
you,
numbers.
typically.
4.8 million. Well, I'm going to cite them because they tend to be popular, at least in here. 4.8 million people on Medicaid who choose not to work. That's not my going out and counting. That's the CBO. 1.4
I mean, but
million
Scott, have
illegal
you ever?
aliens.
There are so many.
There is a
people,
population
Hold
that
on.
chooses not to work that
But
maybe should try a little.
how
And the
many
people
of-
you cite are not going to lose their
Scott,
benefits. I
hold on.
don't believe.
I was going to say,
So you hear the little tactics they're trying to do. They're trying to say, oh, Republicans are calling people deadbeats. And it's like, what's up with the accusations from the Democrats? Like, Democrats, can you make a political argument without trying to, like, frame intent or project intent on the opposite party? Just say, hey, this is why I think it's a better idea to do this. And Scott Jennings don't say, oh, Democrats are this, but he does say, hey, based on what you guys are doing, I can infer that, hey, Democrats just want anybody to be on the system, burdening the system, letting people who choose not to work be on the system, which is taking resources from people who can't actually legitimately work. And it's like, what's so hard for Democrats to understand? And it's all about power, control, leverage. I don't know what it is about Democrats and statism, but they love it. They love it. It's like they want control of your lives. They want you dependent on the government. And this is the incentive. Like, do you want a political party that incentivizes you to be self-reliant, or you want a political party that wants you to be dependent? And that's what Democrats want. Democrats want an incentive structure where you're dependent on the government. Therefore, they have control and influence over you. Hey, if you don't do what I say, this other party, using fear-mongering tactics, because that's the only way Democrats seem to be able to message nowadays in 2025, is, oh my God, the Republicans are going to take this thing that you're depending on and essentially gaslight you to vote for them. Regardless of if you align with Democrats socially, culturally, or politically. They want you to make these hard choices, and Republicans don't even want you to be in that position in the first place. So they incentivize you to kick you out the nest so you can learn how to fly on your own. And this is the problem with Democrats. But I digress. I want to talk more about this political discussion, and you're going to see that I think Scott Jennings, bro, this man, I honestly believe this guy, he should have his own show. I'm being honest with you. I think CNN are doing themselves a disservice by having him play only as a contributor. I think he should have his main thing. I think he should take over Abby Phillips' show. I think he would be a better moderator, in my opinion, anyway. I think he'll be less biased about moderation. But I digress. He's always outnumbered on this panel. But even though he's outnumbered on the panel, he holds himself well, because at the end of the day, no matter how many people are saying lies, it cannot hold up to the truth. And the truth of the matter is, the Republicans' intention with this bill isn't to eliminate or take away health care. It's to optimize it, make it more efficient, leave it, put up barriers where bad actors can't take advantage of it. And I think this is the messaging that Democrats are missing, and this is why I think they're having a hard time convincing Americans in the middle, such as myself. I digress. Let's get into the clip.
Just as a bit of political analysis, I mean, this is really what I'm trying to do here, is that it is much easier to run on a message of someone took something away from you than it is to say, no, actually, we didn't take it away. Certain populations are undeserving. Certain populations, aren't actually there to get it. And so what I would say probably is that you are facing a real issue where Republicans are becoming the party of taking things away, of cutting things,
Can I
cutting
debate this?
things.
Because I hear your analysis, and it's a valid debating point. My rebuttal to that would be, Democrats have become the party of exploding government benefit programs during COVID, vastly expanding Medicaid beyond what it was ever intended to do, and then saying, gee whiz, now people are trying to take things away.
Do you think people like healthcare, though? Do you think people like healthcare?
Do you think people
people
like
like
healthcare? I don't think they like the system we live under, which is not a Republican system. It's
by the way,
Obamacare, which exploded premiums and has vastly expanded the welfare state.
That point you made at the end, Obamacare was not supposed to make private insurance like what I have more expensive, and people still complaining about how expensive healthcare has become. And then you saw, Obama had passed some bill that was supposed to prevent healthcare premiums from increasing, and healthcare premiums are still high. Like they got higher than when the Obama era was. So at the end of the day, the bill didn't do its job, and primarily because of Medicare is the reason why. Because at the end of the day, the same argument people make about government state owned and state run grocery stores is the same argument about state run healthcare. If there's no profit motive, it causes inefficiencies in the system, and this is one of them. This is why I think having more regulations or government involvement in the healthcare insurance space is what's actually making it more expensive, in my estimation. I think that we should have a more free market approach to healthcare, and at least to try it out. Like I think that if you deregulate the healthcare system and all this bloat out of it, I think it would substantially decrease cost because you'll have competitors, right? I want, like in my vision of what my model of healthcare, and then I'll go back into this last clip before I end it off with my final thoughts. In my model of healthcare, I think that I wanted to operate more like car insurance than with like the current model we have now, where your insurance is tied with your employer. Because if you lose your job, you lost your healthcare. That makes no sense, right? If I lose my job, I still have my car insurance. I think healthcare should operate in that model, but for it to operate in that model, it needs to kind of be more deregulated, and the state has to be stop being so involved, because the state involvement in of itself is causing the inefficiencies. And one of the reasons why government don't make good solutions, or the government is not usually the solution for most cases, is the fact that the government has no incentive structure or consequences for making mistakes or creating inefficiencies in industry. If a capitalist company comes in and they're inefficient, they're poorly run, they lose business, they go out of business. The government will never go out of business. And this is one of the kind of incentive structures that incentivize inefficiencies in an industry. And this is why generally the worst things government can do is say, I'm here to help. And this is what the negative side effects that Medicare has created, is that it made private insurance holders such as myself, our premiums more expensive, while we see people, so if I didn't have insurance, like there was a case where someone thought you didn't have insurance, they'll charge you cheaper. We're like, why? Because they put all the more expensive stuff on the private insurance. And when private insurance have to be, you see the bill, I'd be seeing the bill, I'm like, damn, $5,000 to do that? Because of the fact that they know, I would just charge the private this much, and then whatever money we lose, the government will pay the rest. And this inefficiency is what's causing all this like lack of transparency. One moment you paying a bill for $1,100, and then next moment they think you didn't have insurance. They say, here, you could pay $400. Like, huh? How that makes sense? Same procedure, but you got two different price models. Why? Medicare. I digress. Let's continue with this final clip, and then I'll wrap up with my final thoughts.
But what I'm saying is most people do believe that there should be a basic ability to go to a hospital and get some care.
I agree, but I think most people also believe that people should not be able to sit and do nothing and receive government benefits, or be in the country illegally and receive government benefits. An attempt to work is a good thing, and the Republican ethos is encouraging work. The Democratic ethos is encouraging government dependence.
I'm not, but what I'm saying is most people
And
do
that's
believe.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's the core of the incentive, right? If you see all the outcomes of government dependency, all you have to do is look at the Black community, right? Like they're disproportionately represented in welfare recipients, right? You 13% of the population, but you represent 23% of welfare recipients. You see the kind of the societal and cultural ills of that dependency and what it has created in a community, right? Lack of it created helplessness. It created the lack of ability of self-determination, right? A lot of these people, right? Everyone has Black fatigue, right? Black people always complain about how their race is holding them back. It's because of what the government, this system has done to them. It incentivized that behavior. It allowed that mentality to thrive and survive to the point where now it's a comforting thing. Now it's outside of Black people's comfort zone to be like, I decide my own destiny. Racism can't stop me. That's outside of a lot of Black people's culturally comfort zone. They love having something to blame because then they can pass off all the responsibility to that. Oh, it's the system's fault. It's not my fault that I'm in this situation. No, it's the system's fault. The system set up all these obstacles and barriers in my way, and that's why I couldn't be successful in life, right? This is their out. So that way they don't have to hold themselves accountable. They don't have to hold their communities accountable. They don't have to hold previous generations of Blacks and their decisions accountable. They don't have to do any of that. They can just blame something external. And this is why they hold on so desperately to systematic racism and all this other stuff, because it's a perfect alibi. And this is what happens when you have a community that's disproportionately dependent on the government. And this is why I lean towards conservatism. This is why I want an incentive structure where it's pushing you to be able to sustain yourself. Because this dependency is not empowering at all. Black power. Oh, we got black power, black power, black power. Black power relies on white guilt. And then the moment white people start feeling guilty about themselves, black people lose all their power. And that's the dependency that I'm talking about. And I don't want this culture for the rest of society, the rest of America. And our founding fathers warned us about that. And this is what the Democratic Party want, because they see the statistics, they see the leverage they have over the black community, and they're trying to reproduce that in other races of people. That's why I said that black people's loyalty to the Democratic Party is actually hurting them. But, I digress, I'd like to hear your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. Do you agree with Scott Jennings' point there? Do you believe that there is dignity in work? Because I think the Democratic messaging on this, I think they're making a political miscalculation here, especially when they try to frame Republicans as the bad guy, when all Republicans are trying to do is prevent bad actors from misusing and abusing the system. But, I digress. Let me hear your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.